how you doing? I hope you're having a damn great day. Especially if you did miss the first video today. I hope you're having a damn great day. Welcome back to the channel! Today we're going to be discussing ways that you can replicate Olympique Marseille's back three systems. Of course, we're going to be talking about the 3-1-4-2 system as well as the 5-3-2 that they do more or less tend to, drift in and out of in certain moments. I will say this, they have, throughout the course of the season, used various different lineups and formations. They've used a 4-3-3, a 4-2-3-1, and of course, back three systems like so. So, if you don't mind, hit that like button down below, subscribe if you are new, and let's hop on straight into the goddamn video. So, starting off with the formation, it is a 3-1-4-2 system. I've made no changes to it whatsoever, so it is one goalkeeper, 3 centre-backs, 1 DM, 2 central midfielders, 2 wider midfielders, and then of course, 2 strikers. So looking at the tactics now, the tactics don't really vary between the 5-3-2 as well as the system right here, so they will more or less be the same. So, the tactical vision I've gone with is wing play. They do tend to drift the ball into those wide areas of the field and whip in a whole host of crosses, which is fantastic to see. Normally, in the modern day, people try and walk the ball into the back of the net. Gattuso's side, they look to try and cross it in, supply the forwards with potential scoring opportunities, and more times than not, the likes of Aubameyang and Vitina and so on, they tuck the ball away. As for the defensive style of things, I've gone with a balanced approach. Now, this will help maintain and retain the shape of the team as a whole. The formation will be intact more times than not, and it will also allow for the team to be a bit more central, making it very hard to try and play through the middle of the field for the opposition. As for the team width, I've gone with it set to 65. Now, this is obviously on the higher side of a balanced approach, but it does create those 1v1 type situations, making sure that Gattuso's men are squaring up to the opposition and making sure that if they are beaten in a 1v1 type situation. As for the depth, I've set it to almost a low block, but it is still considered in the balanced section of it. But essentially, it is a low to mid block approach set to 35. It does help, maintain and protect the back line, your back 3/back 5 in certain moments, as well as it limits the amount of space that the opposition has to try and run in behind. As for the offense, the build-up play I've gone with is long ball. Now, like I said earlier, they do tend to whip those balls into the box, whether it's Mbamba whipping in across to Aubameyang in the back post, or potentially one of your wingbacks supplying a potential cross to one of your strikers. They will try and play very quickly through the lines, making sure that the opposition are caught off guard at times and still allowing for your forwards to make those runs in behind. As for the transgression, I've set it to forward runs. Now, this essentially pushes your midfield as well as your attack higher up the field, creating a few more scoring opportunities, allowing for your central midfielders to make those attacking runs into the box. As for the width, I've set it to 90. Now, I did say earlier, they do tend to whip those crosses into the box as much as possible. And with the width being set to 90, it does allow for your wider midfielders / wingbacks to have a bit more time and space in and around them in those wider areas of the field. Of course, you also want to try and open up as much space for your strikers as well as your central midfielders to try and get on the ball and try and create and be positive in terms of the offensive outlets. As for the players in the box, I've set it to 7. Now, more so, I have been setting things to 7 quite a bit of late, but I think it does a very effective job. You have 2 strikers in and around the box, which is essentially what you're trying to get the likes of Aubameyang, Vitina, Correa, and so on. You want to get them in and around that attacking area, as well as potentially your opposite fullback, your opposite wide midfielder making that run into the box, and potentially one of your central midfielders also making that attacking run further forward. As for the corners and the free kicks, as for always, I've set it to 4. Now, starting off at the back with the instructions of Paul Lopez. I've set him to a balanced approach. Look, you are playing a mid to low block at times, so you don't really need him being a sweeper keeper or drifting off of his line. He's also very much a traditional base goalkeeper where he'll look to stay on his line, make the saves, and not really come out too much. And then as for the saving on crosses, look, he has made mistakes in the past, but at the same time, he can show a bit more quality in certain moments. So therefore, I think a balanced approach for him would best replicate and suit him. As for your backline, we've got the likes of the captain. I think it's pronounced Gigo. I think I've set him to a conservative set of interceptions, with the other instructions being set to base, as well as for Belradi, he is set to the base set of instructions, except for the defensive positioning is set to step up, getting the centre back nice and close to the opposition man, making sure that he is very imposing and a lot tighter to his movements. As for the likes of Mbamba, now, I did notice that he does get forward a fair amount. He does, get into those attacking areas where he looks to try and, supply the forwards with that early cross approach. So in order to replicate that, he does also tend to drift slightly wider. He will be set to overlap, creating those overlapping runs on the outside, drifting into the midfield every now and then, and looking to try and supply the forwards. Finally, for the defensive positioning, I've told him to step up, being a bit more aggressive, a bit more imposing, and getting a lot closer to the opposition fullback, winger, attacker. He'll be nice and close to the opposition man. Into your midfield now, we've got the likes of Geoffrey Kondogbia. So, he is set to cut passing lanes. You want him more or less having that zonal approach to his game, making sure he's trying to stifle and intercept as many potential goal-scoring opportunities as he can, obviously sitting in front of that back three. As for the attacking support, I've told him to drop between the defenders, so he will have the deepest natural position to the midfield. And then finally, for the interceptions, I've set it to aggressive, creating that workmanlike approach. The positioning freedom, you want to still, maintain the structural integrity of it, even in and out of position of the ball. So in order to do this, positioning freedom is set to stick to position. And then finally, for the defensive positioning, I've set him to cover the center, making sure that he is creating that nice shield approach to protecting that back three. Further on forward into your number 8s, of course, you've got the likes of Jordan Veretout and Amin Harit. So, for the likes of Veretout, a bit more of a box-to-box type role for him, as well as the support on crosses is set to a balanced approach. So sometimes breaking into the box, other times hanging on the edge of the area, looking to try and supply those wider areas of the field with a potential better opportunity. As for the interceptions, I've set it to normal, and then finally cover the wing and then free roam. For the attacking side of things, you can allow for the likes of Harit and Veretout to drift in and out, finding those little pockets of space and looking to try and exploit them as best as they can. As for the likes of Harit, now sometimes he does take up a bit more of an attacking midfield type role, so in order to do this, especially if he is playing, he will have the get forward approach, so this will allow him to stay slightly higher up the field and link up a bit more with the two strikers. For the supports on crosses, you want him consistently getting and working his way into that attacking area, making sure he is on the end of a potential cross or cutback, or at least positioning himself in those areas to try and score those goals. The interceptions is set to normal, as well as cover the wing for the defensive positioning, and then of course free roam. Onto your fullbacks / wider midfielders. They both have the same set of instructions. So for the likes of Murillo as well as Klaus, set to come back on defense. Of course, you don't have any other players in behind them, so you want them to be able to get forward as well as track back when required. The transgression is set to stay wide as well as getting behind, looking to try and penetrate the opposition's backline as much as they possibly can, looking to try and supply crosses or cutbacks for the forwards. Aggressive interceptions is set to be on, as well as the support on crosses is set to get into the box. As you'll see here, for the likes of Klaus, he's got the same set of instructions as well. Onto your forwards now, we've got the likes of Joaquim Correa and Aubameyang, or it could be Vitina if you would like, but for the strike duo, they have similar roles, but slightly differing, of course. So for Correa, he's set to having a balanced width as well as a mixed attack. Now, what I have noticed with this front two system is Gattuso tends to require a whole host of different things from them. He needs them to be running in behind. He needs them to sometimes drop off of the back line and link up a bit more with the midfield if they are being overrun. So therefore, a balanced width as well as a balanced or a mixed attack for the attacking runs suits this side and how they need to play. So you can sometimes have them getting behind. You can sometimes have them be the hold-up target men, or potentially be the false nines. So I think a mixed attack does allow you to get all these different aspects out of their game. As for the interceptions, I've set it to aggressive, and then finally, for the likes of Correa, you want him dropping a bit deeper, coming back on defense, helping link up with the midfield in terms of the defensive outlets. Onto the likes of Aubameyang, who has refound his love for the game, you could say, scoring a whole host of different goals. So, for his role, also a balanced width as well as a mixed attacking outlet, allowing him to drop a bit deeper, getting behind when required, and so on. But for the interceptions, I've told him to be a bit more conservative, hanging up the field a little bit more, because he will also stay slightly further forward, being the outlet ball more times than not. And more or less, you are trying to get Aubameyang in the prime goal-scoring situations. Now shifting on to the back five system, they did use this system against Montpellier. There aren't a whole host of, different changes to it, but there are a few tweaks that you can make to adjust to the opposition. So firstly, starting off with the formation, it is a 5-3-2 holding. So it is one goalkeeper, 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, 1 DM, 2 central midfielders, and then of course 2 strikers. Now taking a look at the tactics. Now, I will say this, there's no major change to it. There's a few tweaks here and there, but more so they will look to try and, have the same core values to them. So wing play for the tactical vision, balanced approach for the defensive style of things. A team width set to 65 and a team depth slightly higher set to 40. Of course, you do have a bit more protection with your fullbacks being slightly deeper this time, so you can afford for your players to have a slightly higher line. It's not that much higher, but it is slightly higher. As for the offense, it's still set to long ball as well as forward runs. You still are trying to encourage your players when in possession to be able to break forward and get in behind, as well as the team width is still being set to 90. Of course, your wing backs very much encouraged to stay as wide as possible, as wide as they possibly can, allowing for a lot of space in between the lines and still looking to try and supply those crosses and cutback opportunities. As for the players in the box, still set to 7, as well as the corners and the free kicks still being set to 4. Okay, so starting off with the instructions, as you'll see here for Lopez, he's got the same set of instructions as before, as well as your back three, there'll be no major changes to their instructions either. As for the likes of Klaus and Murillo, of course, now as seen as wingbacks, they're more natural suited positions, so they'll be told to join the attack. Normal interceptions will be set to be on for them, and of course, you want them making those outside overlapping runs. There's nobody really in front of them, so they need to be able to hug the touchdowns as much as possible, so therefore the run type is set to overlap, and then finally step up, making a very aggressive approach to the opposition's fullbacks or wingers, making sure that they are nice and tight to them. As you'll see for the likes of Murillo, he's got the same set of instructions as well. Into the midfield, of course, we've got the likes of Kondogbia. He's set to cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and then, of course, normal interceptions. For the positioning freedom, I've told him to stick to position and then, of course, cover the centre. Very similar role to before, but obviously now he is told to stay back while attacking and he can't really drop between the defenders like he could before. It's a very weird thing that EAFC have done here. But nonetheless, moving on to your two number 8s. Of course, you've got the likes of Harit and Veretout. They are set to the same set of instructions as well, both of them having a more box-to-box type role, and that does include Harit. You want him to be able to sometimes drop a bit deeper, help out on the defensive side of things, as well as progress the ball forward and get into those more attacking areas. And like I say, it's for both of them. So very much box-to-box roles for the pair. As for the support on crosses, a balanced approach allowing them to sometimes break into the attacking third, get on the end of crosses or cutbacks, or potentially trying to create in that attacking area, or maybe hanging on the edge of the area and trying to facilitate and rotate the ball as best as they possibly can. For the interceptions, trying to create this workmanlike midfield as well. It is set to aggressive, and then finally cover the wing and drift wide. I did note that specifically in this formation, the two number 8s did tend to drift into those wide areas, trying to supply an extra body, an extra passing option for the marauding fullbacks. As you can see for the likes of Veretout, he has got the same set of instructions as well. Into your forward line, again, a very similar role to before. The likes of Correa, he's got a balance with a mixed attack, aggressive, and then of course come back. But this time, Aubameyang's role slightly changes. Of course, with this system, I will say it's used more so for the defensive side of things if you are trying to repel the opposition with. So therefore, there'll be a lot more opportunity for you to counter-attack with. And so you would expect and want the likes of Aubameyang to be breaking in behind as much as he possibly can. So still having a balance with allowing him to drift in and out of the central areas of the pitch, but getting in behind is going to be essential, making sure he is making those runs forward in behind the opposition's back line. As for the interceptions, it's still set to conservative, with the defensive supports still being set to stay forward. So there you have it, people. That is how I would replicate Gattuso's back 5 systems. Of course, if you have enjoyed this video, as always, hit that like button down below. In terms of the rating out of 10, I would give this a solid 7. I think defensively it can be very good at times, but you can somewhat be exposed with the offensive outlet going forward. So there are some give and take situations, but in terms of playing in League 1 and making sure you are setting up a very effective ball playing unit, I think it can be a very good system to run with. So until the next time, my dudes, hit that like button and I'll see you guys tomorrow.